bring in John Hanna. He is a former national security advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney and a senior counselor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Mr. Hanna, thanks for joining us. As you just heard, a very strong and clear message from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Can we expect such a message from President Trump? And if President Trump does not publicly concur, what message would the president be sending?
Well, thank you, Arthel. I hope we can expect to see the president weighing in very strongly on behalf of the protests in Hong Kong and warning China off of any massive intervention that would be a very, very bloody affair. The president right now is kind of on the fence. Congress is about to pass major legislation that will probably be veto-proof, warning that if China continues to repress freedom and liberty in Hong Kong, Chinese officials will be subject to sanctions, and they will be in danger of Hong Kong losing its special economic status in the United States, which obviously has been a huge benefit to the Chinese economy. The president, of course, is worried that if he's to endorse this bill and to play a much larger role in Hong Kong, there's a real danger he could lose this trade deal that he's been negotiating with China now for months that obviously would benefit our farmers in a very big way.
And that legislation you spoke of is bipartisan. Does this actually weaken the president's leverage in his trade talks if he's willing to overlook a fight for democracy to secure a trade deal, or is the president playing it right?
Now, listen, I think what the Congress is doing can only massively increase the president's leverage. He can say to President Xi and China, look, I've got the American people are genuinely furious at what is happening in Hong Kong. If we're going to get a trade deal, China, that, believe me, the Chinese economy needs much worse than the American economy, we need China to back off, to allow these protests to go forward peacefully and to find some kind of political resolution in Hong Kong that at least begins to address some of the very legitimate concerns that the Hong Kongers have.
Yeah, so you're saying the president could lean on Congress. Meanwhile, not only is Chinese President Xi Jinping waiting and watching President Trump's moves on the Hong Kong protests, so are Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Laden, bin Salman. You've got Russian President Vladimir Putin and other allies and foes alike. So how does this resonate with them?
Well, we're going to have to see what the president is prepared to do here. If he stands up strong for Hong Kong and for the rights of the people in Hong Kong to have basic civil liberties and freedoms, I think it sends an important message that America will stand with those who are prepared in very peaceful way to demand their essential God-given human rights. And one country you didn't mention there is the Iranian case, of course, where people in Iran, in Iraq, in Lebanon are all now in the streets demanding freedom and demanding it from governments that have heavy backing from the Islamic Republic in Iran. So I think we're in a very delicate moment now, and the President of the United States, as the leader of the free world, needs to be sending a very strong message to autocrats around the world.
Yeah, thank you for incorporating Iran. They're fighting the same fight there as well. Listen, but back to Hong Kong. There's not a lot of time left before the Hong Kong protests completely blow up and potentially replay a horrible history. How soon should President Trump act?
Well, the legislation from Congress is going to be hitting his desk very, very soon. And after that, he's got about 10 days to decide whether he's going to sign it, whether he's going to veto it, and his veto will then be overridden by the Congress, or whether he's just going to stand pat and allow the law to go into effect anyway by his doing nothing. So it's a very short amount of time. The Chinese have huffed and puffed and threatened that if this law goes into effect, that there will be a real price to pay for the United States, presumably in terms of the trade deal. So we're going to have to wait and see. A very important event tomorrow will be local elections in Hong Kong that will, in fact, be a referendum on how the Hong Kongers view 6 months of these protests. Their economy is in recession. Their streets are a battle zone. If they come out in strong support of democratic activists who are running in these local elections, it will be a powerful, powerful signal to the world. And I think President Trump will have to recognize that.
If you can give me a yes or no, John Hanna, you mentioned that President Trump could let this bipartisan legislation just sort of sit there and then become law without having to do anything. If the president takes that passive role, does that too send a message?
Well, I think it sends the message that he's in a difficult place with these trade negotiations. He wants to play good cop. He'll let Congress play the bad cop, but he is going to let this law go into effect and hang over these trade negotiations. And if the Chinese want a trade deal, they've got to back off in Hong Kong. That's just the facts.
Well, good cop, bad cop usually works, so that combination does.
It's
John
an excellent
Hanna,
strategy.
there you go. John Hanna, thank you very much.